They say a woman's heart is like a river that crosses the mountains. No one can force it to change its course. And in the lands of the great chief Red Eagle, there was a woman whose heart was more stubborn than any river, wilder than any storm. Her name was Moonlight. For 5 long years, the bravest warriors from all the nearby tribes had come to her village. They brought buffalo hides, wild horses tamed by their own hands, bows carved from sacred wood. They told stories of battles won, of enemies defeated, of feats that would make any man tremble. And she, with the same calm with which the sun sets each evening, rejected them all. She didn't just say no. She offered no explanations, no apologies. Warrior number 47 had crossed 3 rivers and 2 mountains to reach her. No, warrior number 63 had captured 20 wild horses just to prove his worth. No. Warrior number 89 was considered the most handsome of 7 tribes. No. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and write in the comments from which part of the world you are watching us. It makes us very happy and motivates us to keep bringing you these stories. Chief Red Eagle watched all of this with a furrowed brow. His daughter was already 23 years old. In their culture, a woman that aged without a partner was something strange, almost worrisome. One night after warrior number 97 left with his head hanging low, the chief called his daughter to his tent. Moonlight spoke in a grave voice. "What is it you seek? The strongest men, the bravest, the most skilled, all have come. What more can life offer you?" She looked at her father with those dark eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of the universe. "Father," she replied, "when the right warrior comes, my heart will speak. Until now it remains silent. And if it never speaks, then I will die listening to the wind, and that will be enough for me." Red Eagle sighed. He had known his daughter since she was a little girl chasing butterflies across the prairie. She had always been different. She had always seen the world in a way others couldn't comprehend. The days passed. Warrior number 100 arrived and left like all the others. The village began to murmur. Some said Moonlight was conceited, others that she was too proud. The older women shook their heads in disapproval as she passed, but Moonlight walked with her head held high, as if the whispers were just the sound of the wind in the trees. One autumn afternoon, as the leaves began to dress in gold and red, something changed. Moonlight was by the river gathering medicinal herbs when she heard a strange sound. It was a horse, but its gallop was irregular, desperate. She hid behind some rocks and watched. A man appeared among the trees. He was a stranger, a white man dressed like those cowboys who sometimes cross the western lands. His horse could barely stand, and the man was covered in dust and wounds. He fell to the ground like a tree struck by lightning. Moonlight should have run to alert the warriors. She should have screamed for help. That would have been sensible, the right thing to do, but something stopped her. She approached slowly, her heart beating so loudly she could hear it in her ears. The man was unconscious, barely breathing. He had a deep wound in his side and bruises across his face. Someone had attacked him with terrible brutality, and then, as if sensing her presence, the man opened his eyes. They were blue like the summer sky after rain, but it wasn't the color that paralyzed her, it was what was inside them. Pain, a pain so deep it seemed bottomless. Loneliness. The same loneliness she felt each night when she looked at the stars. And something else, something she couldn't name but recognized as if it were part of her own soul. The man tried to speak, but only a hoarse whisper escaped before he lost consciousness again. Moonlight stood still for a long moment. Then, without a second thought, she ran towards the village. But she didn't go to fetch the warriors to capture him. She went to get the medicine woman. That night, as they carried the wounded stranger into the village, Chief Red Eagle watched his daughter with curiosity. There was something different about her, a gleam in her eyes he had never seen before. "Why are you helping him?" he asked. Moonlight looked at the unconscious man, then at her father. "I don't know," she admitted. "I only know I must." And in that moment, though no one knew it yet, the destinies of 2 completely different worlds began to intertwine like the roots of 2 trees growing side by side. Moonlight's heart, after 23 years of silence, had finally begun to speak. 3 days. 3 long days the stranger remained between life and death, floating in that dark space where spirits decide whether a soul should stay or depart. The village medicine woman, an elder named Gray Cloud, worked tirelessly. She cleaned the wounds with river water and sacred herbs. She prepared ointments with plants only she knew. She sang the ancient songs her ancestors had taught her, and Moonlight did not leave his side. "You should rest," her father told her on the 2nd day. "I can't," she replied without taking her eyes off the stranger's face. "Why do you care so much for this man? He is a stranger, an outsider." Moonlight didn't know how to answer because the truth was that she didn't understand what she was feeling either. She only knew that every time she looked at that man, something inside her stirred, like a river finding a new path after years of drought. On the 3rd day, as the sun began to set behind the mountains, the stranger opened his eyes. He didn't scream, didn't panic upon finding himself surrounded by unfamiliar people in a completely strange place. He simply looked around with those blue eyes full of infinite sadness. His gaze stopped on Moonlight. "Where am I?" His voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. "You are safe," she replied in his language. Her father had taught her the white man's tongue when she was a child, thinking it might be useful someday. "You are in the village of Chief Red Eagle. I found you by the river." The man closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, there was something different in them. Gratitude mixed with a pain that seemed too heavy for a single heart. "My name is Elijah," he said, and after that he didn't speak again. Days turned into weeks. Elijah's wounds healed slowly under Gray Cloud's care. He could walk, he could move, he could eat, but the words seemed to have dried up in his throat. The village warriors watched him with distrust. A white man among them was rare, something that raised uncomfortable questions. Who was he? Why was he so wounded? Would he bring trouble? "Should we drive him out?" said Black Bear, the most respected warrior of the tribe. "He doesn't belong here." But Chief Red Eagle raised his hand for silence. "A wounded man arrived on our land. We healed him. That is our way. When he is fully recovered, we will decide what to do." Moonlight watched from a distance. She saw Elijah sitting alone by the fire each night, staring into the flames as if searching for answers. She saw how he avoided everyone's gaze like a wounded animal afraid of being hurt again. One night she dared to sit beside him. She said nothing, just stayed there in silence, sharing the warmth of the fire. Several minutes passed before Elijah spoke. "I had a family," he said suddenly without looking at her. "A wife, a small son, a farm near the big river." Moonlight remained silent, listening. "Men on horseback came one night. They wanted our land, our animals, my wife, my son." His voice cracked. "I couldn't protect them. They left me for dead." The flames crackled in the silence of the night. "I woke up alone. Everything I loved was gone." Moonlight felt her heart clench. Now she understood the depth of the sadness she had seen in his eyes from the very first moment. "The pain you carry," she said softly, "it is too heavy for one man." Elijah looked at her directly for the first time. "Why did you help me? Your people have every right to hate me." "I don't see an enemy when I look at you," she replied. "I see a man who has lost everything and is still breathing. That takes a strength that many warriors do not have." Something changed in Elijah's eyes at that moment. The sadness was still there, but there was something else, a small flicker of what might have been hope. "In my village," Moonlight continued, "they say I am crazy because I rejected 100 warriors. 100 strong, brave men, but none of them made me feel anything. And now," she smiled slightly, "now for the first time my heart is not silent." Elijah looked away, back towards the fire. He didn't reply, but Moonlight noticed his shoulders, always tense like a bowstring, relaxed a little. That night, two broken souls recognized each other, not with grand words or empty promises, just with the simple truth of two people who had known the deepest loneliness and for a moment stopped feeling alone. Above, the stars shone over the prairie, silent witnesses to a destiny that was just beginning to be written. Weeks turned into a month turned into 2, and Elijah, the stranger who had arrived more dead than alive, remained in the village. No one knew exactly how it happened. One day, he simply started helping with the horses. The animals, usually nervous around strangers, calmed under his hands. He had a gift, a way of communicating with them that required no words. The old man in charge of the horses, a man called Quiet River, was the first to accept him. "This man understands animals," he told Chief Red Eagle. "He works hard and causes no trouble. Let him stay." And so, without any official ceremony, Elijah found a place in the village. The children were the next to approach. At first, they watched him from a distance, curious about the man with blue eyes and pale skin. But one day, one of the youngest dared to speak to him. "Is it true that men like you come from where the sun is born?" Elijah smiled for the first time since he had arrived. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it was there. "I come from very far away," he replied, "from a place where there are wooden houses and fields of golden wheat." The children sat around him, fascinated. And Elijah, who had remained silent for so long, began to teach them songs. Songs from his homeland, gentle melodies that spoke of rivers and mountains and starry skies. Moonlight watched all this from a distance, feeling her heart fill with an unfamiliar warmth. But not everyone was happy with the stranger's presence. Black Bear watched him with eyes full of distrust. He was the strongest warrior in the tribe, the most respected after the chief. For years, he had hoped Moonlight would accept him. He had been patient, he had been persistent, and now this outsider arrived and captured the attention of the woman he desired. "I don't understand why we tolerate him," he told the other warriors one night. "He is a stranger, he doesn't know our customs, doesn't respect our traditions." "He works hard," one replied. "The horses accept him," added another. "The horses don't choose who lives in our village," Black Bear's voice resonated with frustration. Meanwhile, something was blossoming in secret. Each afternoon, as the sun began its descent toward the horizon, Moonlight walked toward the river. And each afternoon, as if fate had planned it, Elijah appeared on the same path. At first, they just walked in silence, side by side. Words seemed unnecessary. There was something in their mutual company that filled the empty spaces both carried in their souls. But little by little, words began to flow. He told her about his life before the tragedy, about mornings working the land, about nights by the fire with his family. He spoke of his broken dreams and the nightmares that still haunted him. Moonlight told him about her own loneliness, about how she had always felt different, as if she didn't fully belong anywhere, about the 100 warriors she had rejected because none had made her heart beat. "And now?" Elijah asked one afternoon, as the river water glowed like gold in the sun. Moonlight looked him directly in the eyes. "Now my heart beats so hard that sometimes it scares me." Elijah reached out his hand and took hers. It was a simple gesture, almost shy, but for both of them it meant everything. That same night, Black Bear made a decision. He presented himself before Chief Red Eagle in his finest attire, bringing with him 10 magnificent horses, the best of his herd. "Great Chief," he said in a solemn voice, "I have waited many years. I have been patient and respectful. Today I come to formally ask for your daughter's hand, Moonlight." The entire village held its breath. Everyone knew this was Black Bear's last chance, and everyone knew Moonlight would likely reject him once more. Chief Red Eagle looked at his daughter, who was standing by the entrance of her tent. "What do you say, my daughter?" Moonlight walked forward. She looked at Black Bear, a strong, honorable man that any woman in the tribe would have accepted with pride. "Black Bear," she said in a clear voice, "you are a great warrior. You will make a wonderful husband and an exemplary father, but not for me." Murmurs ran through the crowd like wind through leaves. "Is there another?" Black Bear asked, though he already knew the answer. Moonlight didn't reply with words. She simply turned her head towards where Elijah stood, watching the scene alone. Fury blazed in Black Bear's eyes. He clenched his fists so tightly his knuckles turned white. "This isn't over," he muttered through gritted teeth before turning and walking away into the darkness. The stars appeared one by one in the night sky, and in the heart of the village, two completely different worlds were preparing to collide. The storm was about to begin. The following days were tense, like a bowstring about to release an arrow. Everyone in the village could feel it. Something was about to happen, something inevitable that floated in the air like the smell of rain before a storm. Black Bear spoke to no one. He rose before dawn, trained alone in the forest, and returned when the sun had already set. His eyes, once full of pride and determination, now burned with something darker, something dangerous. The elders murmured among themselves. The women pulled their children away as he passed. Even the other warriors kept their distance. "We must do something," Gray Cloud told Chief Red Eagle. "A wounded heart can poison the whole village." But the chief knew he could not intervene. This was a matter between men, a matter of honor that must be resolved in the ancient way. Elijah also felt the change. He noticed Black Bear's stares that promised trouble, but he was not afraid. After everything he had lost, what more could life take from him? One morning, as Elijah was working with the horses, Black Bear appeared before him. "Outsider," he said, his voice cold as mountain ice. Elijah straightened up slowly. He didn't respond, he just waited. "You came to our land. We gave you food, shelter, protection, and you repay us by stealing what is not yours." "I have stolen nothing," Elijah replied calmly. "Moonlight's heart belonged to me." Black Bear's voice echoed across the village. "I waited for her for years. I was patient. I was honorable. And you arrive covered in wounds, and she looks at you as if you were a gift from the spirits." Elijah sighed deeply. He understood Black Bear's pain. He understood what it was like to love someone and feel that love slipping through your fingers like water. "The heart cannot be stolen," he said finally. "The heart chooses, and no one, neither you nor I, can control that choice." Black Bear took a step forward, his fists clenched tight. "Then fight for her, prove you are worthy." "I'm not going to fight you." "Are you afraid?" "No." Elijah looked him straight in the eyes. "I have already lost too much in this life. I will not gain anything by beating a man who is only suffering." For a moment, Black Bear seemed disconcerted. He had expected resistance, had expected violence. He had not expected compassion. "You are a coward," he spat out the words before turning and disappearing among the tents. That night, Moonlight went to see her father. Chief Red Eagle was sitting by the fire, his face illuminated by the dancing flames. He looked older than she remembered, more tired. "Father," she said, sitting beside him. "Daughter." They remained silent for a long moment, as they had done so many times over the years. "I know what you've come to tell me," the chief said finally. Moonlight took her father's hand in hers. "For 23 years I waited. 100 warriors came, 100 warriors left. They were all strong, all brave, all honorable. But when I looked at them, I only saw emptiness. And when you look at the outsider," she smiled softly. "When I look at him, I see a man who knew love and lost everything. I see a man who fell into the deepest darkness and still found the strength to go on. In his eyes there is death, father, but there is also life. There is hope for a new beginning." Chief Red Eagle observed his daughter with a mixture of pride and sadness. "Your mother was the same," he said in a gentle voice. "She also saw things that others could not see. She chose me when there were 10 stronger warriors waiting for her." "And did you ever regret that she did?" The chief shook his head. "It was the best gift life ever gave me." Father and daughter embraced under the stars while the fire crackled softly, but the peace of that moment was about to shatter. A young scout came running into the village. His breathing was ragged, his eyes full of alarm. "Chief, men on horseback are approaching from the east. There are many, maybe 20 or more, and they are armed." Chief Red Eagle stood immediately. "Who are they?" "I don't know, but they are asking for a man with blue eyes." A chill ran through the village. All eyes turned to Elijah, who had come out of his tent at the commotion. His face had gone pale as the moon. "It's them," he whispered. "The men who destroyed my life. They followed me here." Moonlight ran to him and took his hand. "I won't let them take you." Elijah looked at her with a mixture of love and pain. "If I stay, I will bring destruction to your people. If I go, maybe I can lead them away." But before he could move, the voice of Chief Red Eagle rang out with authority. "No one under my protection will be handed over to enemies. This is our land, and here we decide who stays and who goes." Drums began to sound in the darkness. The warriors took up their bows, and on the horizon the invaders' torches glowed like the eyes of demons in the night. The storm had finally arrived. The night had turned cold as the heart of a lone wolf. The invaders' torches drew closer and closer, their flames dancing in the darkness like evil spirits come to claim what was not theirs. Elijah stood in the center of the village, his mind divided between two paths. He could flee, disappear into the mountains, and lead the danger away from these people who had taken him in. Or he could stay and finally face the demons of his past. Moonlight approached him and took his face in her hands. "Look at me," she said in a firm voice. "Look at me and listen well to what I am going to say." Elijah looked at her. In her dark eyes, he saw something he hadn't seen in a long time. He saw faith, he saw love, he saw a future. "You are not alone," she continued. "Not anymore. Whatever comes tonight, we will face it together." Before Elijah could answer, an unexpected voice rang out. "The woman is right." It was Black Bear. The great warrior approached with a firm step, his bow in his hand and his quiver full of arrows on his back. His face no longer showed hatred or resentment. There was something different in his gaze, something that closely resembled respect. "I have been blind," Black Bear said, addressing Elijah. "I called you a coward because you didn't want to fight me, but now I understand. It takes more courage to refuse a pointless fight than to accept one." Elijah didn't know how to respond. "This is my village," Black Bear continued. "These are my people. And if those men come to threaten what is ours, I will face them with everything I have. Not for you, outsider, for us." Chief Red Eagle stepped forward, his presence imposing as an ancient mountain. "Tonight there are no outsiders or natives," he declared, his voice echoing like thunder. "Tonight there is only one family defending its home." The warriors of the tribe gathered in formation. 20, 30, 40 men with bows and spears, their faces painted with the colors of war. The women led the children to the farthest tents while the elders prepared torches and barricades. Elijah took a bow that someone offered him. His hands trembled, but not from fear. They trembled from something he had thought lost forever, purpose. The invaders arrived when the moon reached its highest point. They were 25 men on horseback, armed and dangerous. Their leader, a huge man with a scar crossing his face, rode forward. "We only want the farmer," he shouted. "Hand him over and we will leave in peace." Chief Red Eagle stepped forward. "On this land we do not hand over our own." The invader leader laughed cruelly. "Your own? That man is not of your blood. He is a stranger, a nobody." "Blood does not make a family," the chief replied. "Actions do, and this man has shown more honor in his silence than you have in all your words." The tension was unbearable. The wind itself seemed to hold its breath, and then everything happened very fast. The invaders attacked, but they were not expecting the ferocity of the tribe's warriors. Arrows flew through the darkness like shooting stars. Battle cries echoed in the night. The invaders' horses were spooked by the torches the warriors waved. Elijah fought as he had never fought in his life. Not for revenge, not for hatred. He fought for the woman who had healed his broken heart. He fought for the people who had given him a second chance. He fought for the man he wanted to become again. Black Bear appeared beside him in the midst of the chaos, covering his back as if they had been brothers for life. "Not bad for a farmer," the warrior shouted with a fierce grin. The battle was intense but brief. The invaders, outnumbered and outmatched in determination, finally fled into the darkness from which they had come. Their leader was the last to retreat, throwing a look of pure hatred before disappearing among the trees. As the sun began to peek over the horizon, painting the sky orange and gold, the village was still standing. There were wounded, but no losses to mourn. Chief Red Eagle walked towards Elijah, who was sitting by a campfire, exhausted but alive. Moonlight was by his side, her hand intertwined with his. "Elijah," the chief said with solemnity, "you came to us as a wounded stranger. Today you fought as one of us." He took a necklace from his neck, a necklace with a blue stone that had belonged to his father and his father's father before him. "My daughter rejected 100 warriors because none made her heart speak. You succeeded without even trying." He placed the necklace around Elijah's neck. "Today I accept you as a son, not out of obligation, but by choice." Moonlight felt tears run down her cheeks as she hugged her father. Elijah stood up, words stuck in his throat. "I lost everything I loved," he said finally. "I thought I would never feel anything again, but you gave me back something I thought impossible, a reason to live." The sun rose fully over the mountains, bathing the village in golden light. Moonlight and Elijah looked at each other, and in that moment they knew their story was just beginning. Two worlds that were never meant to meet had joined forever, and the heart that had been silent for 23 years finally sang.